Thank you all for coming this morning. We have with us today, come in.
I just want to get attention, so your words would be heard, Mr.
Okay,
Simpson.
thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you all for coming this morning. We have here a bipartisan and bicameral group of legislators that have been dubbed the Go Big Coalition, that has been urging, as I'm sure you're all aware, the super committee to go big. We all believe that it needs to do that if we're going to stabilize the debt in this country and start paying down our debt. And we want to encourage the super committee, although there's just a week left before they have to report. This is not rocket science. They can do this. They can go big, and they can help us solve this problem. So we want them to know that there's a bipartisan group of legislators on both sides of the aisle and on both ends of the Capitol that want to work on this and want to make the tough votes that are necessary to get us out of the situation we are currently in. We're going to have a few speakers this morning. I'm going to reserve my remarks because I have some other people that I'd like to speak. So go ahead, Stenny.
Thank you very much, Speaker Simpson.
That was history.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Simpson's from Idaho, former Speaker of the Idaho House. He and I had a relationship because I was president of the Maryland Senate, and we started a relationship early in his career, not in mine because I'd been here some time, but
I wasn't alive early in your career.
this is the kind of comment that undermines cooperation in the Congress of the United States. Mike Simpson's been my partner, along with Heath Schuler and others, and Peter Welch and others, and Mark Warner and Saxby Chambliss. Saxby Chambliss happens to be my fraternity brother. We're both Sigma Chi's. We've been good friends. The public doesn't believe that we have good friends across the aisle. That's not accurate, nor do they believe we can work across the aisle. We're here today to say we must work across the aisle in both houses to get this country on the right track. Last year, then Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mike Mullen said that, and I quote, "Our national debt is our biggest national security threat." That is why we all stand here on this podium. Republicans, Democrats, House members, Senate members. We must do something to start paying down the debt, and that something is in the hands of the Joint Select Committee on Deficit Reduction. 2 weeks ago, a number of us from the House, some 100 Democrats and Republicans, stood together to send a message that we want the Joint Select Committee to send us a deal that is big, about $4 trillion in deficit reduction, and is accomplished through a balanced mix of reductions in mandatory expenditures and additional revenues. Mike Simpson said when we had that press conference, it cannot be done any other way. Today we return and are joined by senators from parties who share our concern about deficits and agree that committee members, for the sake of our country and its sound fiscal future, should recommend a package of cuts, revenues, and reforms consistent with the Bowles, Simpson, Domenici, Rivlin, and Gang of Six proposals. We have the greatest chance we've seen in a generation to strike a bold agreement that will move us forward on a sustainable fiscal path and spur economic recovery. To do so, of course, as we have all seen, is not easy, and we recognize the pressures committee members are facing from multiple directions. But we want them to know that there is a large and significant number of us in both chambers who want such a deal and are ready to give it a fair shot. That is why we are standing together today, Democrats and Republicans united, to send a message of urgency and support. More than 100 of us in the House, split nearly evenly between parties, have already sent a letter to that effect. None of us want to risk the immediate and long-term effects of sequestration that it will bring if the committee fails in its task. Sequestration is not a worthwhile option. At risk is more than just the economic impact, but also the trust the American people have in their government to solve the most pressing problems we face as a nation. I want to thank all my colleagues, Senate, House, Republicans, and Democrats. I want to thank all the House and Senate members who have come together to send this message that the seriousness of the debt challenge can only be met with an equally serious and bipartisan determination to do what needs to be done, to do what the American people expect of us. And I'll now yield to my friend Saxby Chambliss.
Well, thanks, Denny, and let me just say to Heath Schuler and Mike Simpson, as well as my good friend Steny Hoyer, how much we appreciate their leadership and their willingness to step up and show their support, along with all of our colleagues in the United States Senate who have committed to say to the Super Committee, the right thing to do is to go big. Go big may mean $3 trillion, it may mean 4, may mean 5, may mean 6 to some people. But if we don't get to that level of deficit reduction, then we are not showing to the world marketplace, to Americans and to other people around the world who are watching closely what's happening in the United States Congress today and over the next week, that we are serious about this issue of the debt and the deficit, that we're not going to send the right message. I'm very proud to stand here with these folks today and say, Super Committee, we got your back. We support you. We look forward to working with you on whatever course you decide to take to make sure that we do the right thing for the American people, as well as to continue to show that America leads the financial free market, and we're going to be there to back you to make sure that that leadership continues. With that, I'll turn to Heath Schuler.
With this many people on here, I'll take the podium when I get the opportunity. So, Zaxby, thank you. Incredible work that has been done. The House Working Group, through multiple leaderships of both Democrats and Republicans, and what the Gang of Six has been able to work together. And now look at us. We have a substantial amount, over 150 members that may not all be here because of the room, but over 150 members in the United States, House and Senate, have come together to say, we want to go big. That time is of the essence. We can't kick the can down the road. That has been going on for a decade now. Now is the time. And they have the support of these members of Congress. This is the true statesmen and women before you. It's not about their elections. It's not about what's on the horizon politically for themselves. This is about the American people. And this is about the next generation. We can't turn our back on the next generation. We must leave this country better than we found it. And the way that's going to be done is through working together in a bipartisan way. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
I'm going to set a record and be the briefest of anybody because I want to make sure all these other colleagues get a chance. Failure can't be an option. The whole rest of the world is watching. And the notion of what's happening in Europe and their lack of stepping up, we can't have the repeat of that here in this country. And whether we like it or not, this debt and deficit debate has become, in effect, a proxy for whether our democratic institutions are up to the job in the 21st century. And I think you're seeing behind us here a growing bipartisan group in both the House and the Senate that want to get the job done. So let's make sure we hear from some other folks. Kent?
The world is watching. We know that the economic future of our country and the world rests on decisions that will be made in the next few days. This is a circumstance that requires us to work together. We know it's tough, but we know it's been done. The Group of Six did it, Simpson-Bowles did it, Rivlin Domenici did it. This group can do it. And they need to know if they are bold, if they are brave, if they go big, we will stand with them, and the American people will stand with them.
Mike Crapo?
You've heard the message, but there's really three critical points to make here. We are here to support the Super Committee, to make sure the Super Committee knows that we've got its back and that we will come together on a bipartisan basis to help America find a solution. Number two, the $4 trillion figure, the effort to go big, is not just an arbitrary number. It's what we've all learned is what we must do as a minimum to achieve the kind of fiscal reform in America that will help keep us the greatest nation and the greatest economy in the world. And to make sure that those on the super committee and those in the Congress, and frankly, that the world markets know that we have the ability to develop a bipartisan solution and that we are ready to back it.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Fortenberry. I'm Congressman from Lincoln, Nebraska. In spite of our current impasse at the moment, we are here as a nonpartisan group of senators and representatives to simply say it's time to go bold. It's time to get our nation's fiscal house in order. I'm convinced if our super committee, our joint committee, were able to achieve a substantial reduction in spending and the right types of reforms, this would unleash the power of our economy. Entrepreneurial confidence would increase, and the United States would have to stop, standing on the world's doorstep, begging and borrowing from other countries. Nebraskans are interested in common sense solutions. They're not interested in Washington's dysfunction. It's time to go bold. It's time to be big. It's time to get our nation's fiscal house in order. Let's get it done.
Dick Durbin, and Lamar, and we want to get some other House members.
Thanks so much. Most Americans, if they saw this scene behind me, would say, I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think you could bring together so many Democrats and Republicans from the House and Senate to agree on anything, let alone one of the most challenging issues that we have ever faced on Capitol Hill. But it's a fact. The men and women here today have taken a hard look at the challenge that faces the super committee and have said, we stand behind you. We want you to succeed. We'll do everything we can to help you, but we encourage you to be bolder in your mission, to look beyond the $1.2 trillion or $1.5 trillion to $4 trillion. Going bigger is better in terms of the impact it will have that says to the world, we get it. We're turning this economy in the right direction so that we can grow in a fashion that inspires confidence around the world. And going bigger is easier politically. Doesn't sound right, does it? Sounds counterintuitive. But when you start putting enough on the table that both political parties, House and Senate, realize that this is historic, it is worth the political risk, and if we stand together and lock arms together, we can achieve something as a group which no single individual can achieve. I hope that we will keep what we have in mind here moving forward. First with the super committee, we wish them well. But beyond that, that we take this challenge, which faced the Bowles-Simpson Commission, the Gang of Six, Domenici-Rivlin, and others, and accept it as the challenge of our political generation. This is our chance to step up and make a difference. There may not be another chance. There may not be an issue of such gravity and magnitude, at least on the domestic side, that any Congress has faced in modern times. This is our moment. Let's seize that moment, and working together, let's succeed for the good of this nation.
Let's hear from Lamar and then a couple more House members.
This is about more than money. It's about whether the President and the Congress can competently govern, about whether we can face up to the biggest problem facing our country and working together, can we solve that problem? And of course, we can. We've already had 3 bipartisan groups who've laid out a framework. We now have Republicans who've put revenues on the table. We have Democrats on the super committee who put entitlements on the table. Both need to put more on the table and get a result, and we're here to support them.
Peter Welch.
You know, there's something in this for everybody. I'm a progressive Democrat. I believe strongly in the importance of Medicare. And those of us who believe in Medicare have to take the lead in making sure it's sustainable. This go big, go bold effort is the best way, where everything is on the table, that we can make the tough decisions that will mean that folks who are counting on Medicare, folks who are counting on Medicaid, will have it. Revenues are on the table. Social insurance programs are on the table. There are sensible reforms that we can make and will make by working together, and it will be done much more easily if we go big and go bold.
Congressman Grimm. Excuse me. Freshman member from New York.
Good morning. For me, it comes down to one word: confidence. We're all standing here today because we want the super committee to have the confidence that we're there to support them and we're there to urge them to do the big and bold things that this country expects. It's also about the confidence through our representation that America is expecting all of us to work together. We need to instill that confidence that we are not broken, we are not completely dysfunctional, we can work together. And lastly, it's to instill confidence not only domestically but throughout the world, internationally, that we can control our debt. We understand we have a crisis, but we have answers to the solutions. And by working together, we have the best and brightest minds. America can still do anything. Thank you.
Good questions. Anybody else want to add? Questions?
Bipartisan coalition right here. Why not put together a $4 trillion deficit reduction package and push for the leaders to bring it to the floor?
I think we need to give the super committee the time to finish their process. We hope they'll be successful. We want to show as much as we can that we got their back. Clearly, there's been previous work done that I think could be a template for that. But let's let them get to the 23rd, and again, let's hope they produce a big product.
So the question right now seems to be not whether they will do a big deal, but whether they will get any kind of deal at all. What can all of you do specifically to help them get across the finish line?
Well, I think the reason you have all of us here on this stage is to say to them at a time when we understand it's a struggle. And Dick Durbin said it best, and others have said it. I think everybody here agrees. Going big is better. And it is better for both sides, both perspectives, in terms of how we get to where we need to get. So I think this group here is, I think, a very, very impressive group of people who say, we're going to support you, so get there, and you'll have your, as somebody said, we'll have your back. I think that's the whole purpose of us being here today.
But you've now got the Republican co-chair saying essentially he's gone as far as he's going to go on taxes. At the same time, you have Republicans saying they haven't gotten a Democratic counterproposal in more than a week. Are you worried that this whole thing is unraveling?
I think we're here, again, to express our support for success. That failure is not an option. Sequestration ought not to be an option. Our country needs us now. And that's why we're here, urging them to succeed. I know what the public comments have been, but I also am heartened, I will tell you, and I've talked to all 12 of the members of the committee, and I talked to the speaker yesterday. I believe that all of them feel the importance of this effort and the necessity to come to a conclusion successfully.
I think it's already been done 3 times. You know, so it's, you know, the fact is, you know, as some and I've suggested, if they're not successful, one of those plans could get a vote. But let's hope that the super committee, you know, the leadership of both parties, I think took a courageous step in early August and set up this super committee. They felt, the 4 leaders felt that this was the way to reach resolution. You know, we want to be, we're not only supportive of the super committee, we're supportive of that leadership's effort, and we'd love to, you know, the leadership and everybody else ought to get behind this effort to make sure that it gets across the finish line.
Last question. Yes. Mr. Simpson, can you have some of your Republican Senate colleagues address what appears to be the disconnect on the tax issue, where some of the Republican senators have said they want to go big, but have also signed this letter saying they're opposed to new revenue. I think 33 Republican senators.
I would ask one of my Senate colleagues. Mike, would you like to talk?
Yeah, each of us have stated our preference for the way we would do it if we were doing it ourselves. And the Republicans who have said that they really don't believe that raising taxes right now is the right way to approach the solution come from that perspective. What we are here today, however, to say is that we are ready to make the compromises and build the solutions that can help bring all the parties together. And several of those here have made the point that if we go big, it actually becomes easier to put the issues on the table and find the solutions that can help us move forward. So the fact that you may have members standing here who have different ideas about how far they would personally like to go on taxes or how far they would personally like to go on entitlement reform does not mean that they are not ready to stand here and make the kinds of decisions that will help us as a nation to solve our fiscal crisis.
This is the guy who supported not only Simpson Bowles, but was a key member of Gang of Six. You know, we're all have to give.
I think we'll end
Thank
on that note. Thank you very much. Good, Mike. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.